Hello, my name is Monster Half-Life, and today we're talking about Bhaal, the god of murder. Introduced, at least in 5th edition, in the charity book Minsk and Boo's Journal to Villainy, they have 2 stat blocks that we can use instead of 1. Both are avatars, so you're not going to be fighting the true deal, but banishing their avatars from this plane of existence is still a good thing. Now, they have a pretty unique way of getting from one form to another. Unlike most forms or most different types of ways that enemies can transform into each other, they don't just transform when their first form hits 0 HP. But we'll be getting into how they transform during their actions section. Now, I'd like to present Monster Half-Life's Guide to Running Bhaal, the Lord of Murder. The Slayer form is the weaker of the 2 avatar forms, but that doesn't mean they're a slouch. With a 19 armor class, 266 HP, and a speed of 40, they're still pretty tanky, though they're probably not going to be wanting to take too much damage at the level that you're going to be fighting them. As for their stats, they have a 24 in their strength, a 22 in their dexterity, a constitution of 20, an intelligence of 14, a wisdom of 16, and a charisma of 14. For their saving throws, they have proficiency in strength and dexterity, which means that their strength saving throws is a plus 13 and their dexterity is a plus 12. They're only proficient in one skill, which is stealth, at a plus 18. As for damage resistance and immunities, they're resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks, and immune to the poisoned condition. And they're immune to being charmed, exhausted, frightened, incapacitated, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, stunned, or knocked unconscious. They have 60 feet of dark vision, which is also augmented by their Devil's Sight, so magical darkness does not affect them. They have the Assassinate trait, which during their first turn, the Slayer has advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn, and then any hit the Slayer scores on a surprised creature is a critical hit. Now, this is a bit wonky because surprise has been changed in 2024 from 2014. In 2014, it used to be that they basically got a free turn if you were against a surprised opponent. But now, the surprised condition puts disadvantage on initiative rolls for anyone who is surprised. So, how would I run this? Well, personally, I would run it as on the first turn, anyone who has disadvantage on their initiative rolls, aka are surprised, would get the critical hit. It's a bit of a buff, but I think that's how you should run it, or at least how I would run it. Bhaal is the god of murder after all. You want them to be doing a lot of damage. Next up, they have Immutable Form, which makes them immune to any spell or effect that would alter their form, except for transforming into their Ravager form. They have 2 legendary resistances per day. They have magic resistance, which means that they have advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects, and their claw attacks are magical. In this form, they can take 4 claw attacks, and each claw attack is a melee weapon attack with a reach of 5 feet. It has a plus 13 to hit, and on each hit, it does 2d8 plus 7 slashing damage, plus 1d6 necrotic damage. And if the creature is a creature, the target's a creature, it must succeed on a DC 19 Constitution saving throw, or have its hit point maximum reduced to be equal to the amount of damage taken. The target dies if the attack reduces its hit point maximum to 0. Now, the nasty part about this is that the reduction lasts until it's removed by a greater restoration spell or other magic. Long resting doesn't get you your max HP back. So you going to have to hope you have a cleric in the party, or at least a very high-level paladin. As a bonus action, they can use the Prey bonus action, which means that they focus on one single creature that they see within 60 feet. Afterwards, the first time on each turn that the Slayer hits the creature that's marked, they do an additional 2d6 damage. Now, it doesn't say that you can only mark one creature at a time, so theoretically you could use your bonus action to mark everybody, but I think they meant it to only be able to mark one creature at a time. Lastly, they have 3 legendary actions in the Slayer form. They have Savage Disengage, which means that they disengage without provoking opportunity attacks, and if it moves within 5 feet of a creature, anytime it's moving, which it has 40 feet of movement, it makes 1 claw attack against that creature. They have the Finish legendary action, which costs 2 legendary actions, and the Slayer attacks a creature that has been marked by its Prey ability. If the attack hits and the creature has less than 40 HP remaining after the attack, the creature is reduced to 0 hit points instead. And lastly, there's the Ravager form, which costs all 3 legendary actions. If the Slayer has killed a creature of CR 5 or level 5 or greater, that it is marked with its Prey ability in the last minute, it can transform into the Ravager form. The form lasts until dawn, with a minimum of 1 hour. The Ravager form of Bhaal is definitely the stronger of the two. With an armor class of 20, hit points of 351, and a speed of 40, they're tankier than their Slayer counterpart. As for their stats, their strength goes up to a 28, their dexterity goes up to a 24, and their constitution goes up to a 24, while their intelligence, wisdom, and charisma stay the same. But for saving throws, their strength goes up to a plus 16, their dexterity goes up to a plus 14, and then their charisma actually gets up to a plus 9 as they become proficient in charisma saving throws. As for their skills, their stealth goes down a little bit, only down to a plus 14, but their athletics goes up to a plus 16, and their perception goes up to a plus 10. For damage resistances, they lose the resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks, but they gain resistance to necrotic. They become immune to acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, and bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. Their condition immunities are the same as the Slayer, but their dark vision goes up to 120 feet instead of 60 feet, and they get true sight up to 60 feet. Something that's kind of funny, but won't really affect the combat, is that their languages change from form to form. In their Slayer form, they only know Abyssal and Common, while in their Ravager form, they gain the languages of Primordial and Undercommon. Why? I don't know. Oh well. As for their abilities, they get the Avatar of Bhaal ability, which is when the Ravager drops to 0 HP, its form fractures. Within the next 24 hours, it will reappear in its Slayer form within 2d6 miles of where the Ravager form fell. It also has Cull the Weak, which, when the Ravager damages a creature with a melee attack and the creature is left with 20 or fewer remaining hit points, they must succeed on a DC 21 Constitution save or be reduced to 0 HP. They still have their immutable form, which makes them immune to any spell or effect that would alter their form. They get 3 legendary resistances per day instead of the 2 in the Slayer form, and these are a different set of legendary resistances. So if you used your 2 legendary resistances in the Slayer form, the Ravager form still has 3 legendary resistances. But if you've only used 1, it doesn't go to 4, it just goes to 3. So use them in your Slayer form while you can. They have magic resistance, and they also have magic weapons to make sure all of their attacks are magical, And lastly, they have the Spiked Hide ability, which at the start of each of its turns, the Ravager deals 3d10 piercing damage to any creature grappling it or is grappled by it. As for its multi-attack, it does lose an attack, as it goes from 4 attacks to 3, but each one does more damage, so it kind of balances out a little bit. It can make 1 bite attack and then either make 2 claw attacks or 2 spine attacks. The claw attack is a plus 16 to hit and does 3d8 plus 9 piercing damage plus 2d6 necrotic damage. If the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 21 Constitution saving throw, or have its hit point maximum reduced equal to the amount of the damage taken. The target dies if the attack reduces its HP maximum to 0. The reduction lasts until it's removed by the Greater Restoration spell or other magics. So it's like the Slayer form. The Bite also does this, but it does 3d10 plus 9 piercing damage and 2d6 necrotic damage. Not to mention, if you're large or smaller, it grapples you with an escape DC of 20. Though, if it does grapple you, the Ravager can't make another bite attack until the grapple ends. Lastly, it has its spines. Those are only a plus 14 to hit, but they do 3d6 plus 7 piercing damage, and if the target fails a DC 19 Constitution saving throw, they are stunned until the end of their next turn. Lastly, the Ravager can take 3 legendary actions, choosing from whatever options that you have below. Though, truthfully, they're not very good. Their first one is Detect, which lets them make a perception check, but when are you going to be doing that unless someone's hiding from them? They have their Spiky Carapace, which lets them do a very small AoE around them. For any creature within 5 feet of the Ravager must make a DC 21 Dexterity saving throw, or take 5d10 piercing damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. Lastly, they have their Smash ability, which is, it costs 2 legendary actions, and it is also a very small AoE. Any creature within 10 feet of the Ravager must make a DC 20 Constitution saving throw, or take 4d8 thunder damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. Creatures that fail the saving throw are also pulled 5 feet towards the Ravager, and the noise that is produced by this attack can be heard up to 1 mile away. The Slayer form is a form that you definitely don't want to have out in the open. It's not an out in the open type of form. With both its plus 18 to stealth and its assassinate feature, it's pretty obvious that you're meant to ambush your opponent before you fight them. Now, you're going to want to try and ambush them as best you can, but with your plus 18 stealth, that shouldn't be too hard. And they have a plus 6 to their initiative because of their dexterity, combined with the disadvantage that your opponents get when they're surprised. They should be going first, or at least very close to first. When it's his turn, you're going to want to use your bonus action to use the Prey action first, since you do additional damage on whoever you marked. Not to mention you have 4 claw attacks, and you're going to want to use all of them on one opponent. Now, there's something I need to talk with you about before we get into more of the strategies. For Bhaal specifically, you need to make sure that you're not afraid to kill your players. What do I mean by this? Well, most of the time while you're fighting a monster, when you knock out a player, you usually won't attack them while they're down. It's just something I've seen overall. The monster will instead move on to the next person who's up and won't kill the player who's unconscious, because you want to give them a chance to come back into the game. Do not do this with Bhaal because of his condition to transform into his Ravager form, since you need someone to die to transform into that Ravager form. He is the god of murder after all. So you're going to want to be attacking your players when they're at 0 HP to kill them anyways. You want the Prey bonus action, you want to use it on your players so that you can do extra damage while you're fighting them, especially since the claw attack reduces their maximum HP by the amount of damage that you do. So if you're doing extra damage with Prey, that's more maximum HP that they can lose. Truthfully, there's not much more to it other than that. Since they don't have any ranged attacks, they're going to want to be in close quarters with you all the time. Now, as for the legendary actions, you're probably going to deviate between Savage Disengage and Finish, depending on how low you've gotten your opponent, especially on the first turn. If you're able to get that person that you specifically targeted down to below 40, I would just go with Finish to get them down to 0 so you can start working on them next turn. Savage Disengage is something I would do if you can't get them below 40 HP, because you're practically able to attack at least a good chunk of the party, since you have a 40-foot movement speed and you only need to move within 5 feet of a creature to use a claw attack against them. You just need to zigzag between everyone. Ravager form, the legendary action, is obviously going to be for once you get to the top of the round again, once you've killed someone. But once you do kill someone, do not wait to use your Ravager form. Use it as fast as you can, because the Slayer only has 266 HP, which sounds like a lot until you're fighting high-level party members, especially since they don't have very many good damage immunities or resistances, so you're going to be losing that HP very fast. If you lose the element of surprise on your first turn and don't get the surprise that you want, you're probably going to have to run. But if you're able to get someone and kill someone and then use the Ravager form, I would use that instead. The Bhaal Ravager form plays a lot differently than the Slayer form does. While the Slayer form is more Assassin's Creed, sneak up on your opponent and kill them as fast as possible, the Ravager form is definitely more, I go up to you and beat you to death. Now, their multi-attack does specify that you have to use your bite attack first, and you can either do 2 claw attacks or 2 spine attacks, though you're most likely going to be in melee with someone since the Slayer form didn't have any ranged attacks. So if the person you are meleeing is in relatively good HP or not super bloodied, you're probably going to use their bite attack to grapple them, and then use your claw attacks to hurt them while they're in melee range. If they are low on HP, or they fail their Cull the Weak saving throw, then you're going to use your bite attack first, of course, and if they're knocked out in your mouth, you're going to want to look for your next opponent before you move, and then you're going to want to use your 2 spine attacks. Now, it doesn't do as much damage as the claw, and it hits a little less often, with a plus 14, though, truthfully, that's still pretty good on a stat block like this, especially since player armor classes don't tend to go above like a 20 or a 21. But anyways, you want to use your spine attack before you approach because they have a chance of stunning your opponent if they hit. So you're going to try and stun them and then see what you can do from there. You want that advantage and you want that critical hit. Now for the bite attack, if you're grappling someone with it, you can't make another bite attack until the grapple ends. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to bite someone, and then you're going to keep them grappled until the start of your next turn, which activates their spiked hide, which at the start of each of your turns, you deal 3d10 piercing damage to any creature you're grappling or is grappling you. Now, that means that you get a 3d10 damage on grappling on whoever you're biting. Then you drop them as a free action, easy peasy, and then you bite them again to grapple them again. Because you want to be able to take advantage of using all 3 of your attacks. You never want to just use 2 attacks because you have someone grappled. You get the damage at the start of each of your turns, and if you miss a bite attack, which has a plus 16, I'm sorry to say, but the dice hate you. But that's the play. You bite someone at the beginning of your turn, you claw them or use your spikes on them, then wait till the start of your next turn to drop them because you do an extra 3d10 piercing damage. Basically rinse and repeat. Now, you'll probably notice that I haven't talked about their legendary actions yet. That's because I truly think they're a lot worse than the Slayer's legendary actions. With the Slayer's legendary actions, it gives you movement, it gives you attacks, it lets you try and take an opponent down if they're at 40 HP or lower. But these ones on the Ravager form, they're okay. They're not that great. The first one is a perception check. You're going to be using that one very situationally, aka when the party is hiding from you and you just can't find them, but you don't want to waste an action using a perception check. Spiky Carapace does damage against melee people because it's a little AoE within 5 feet of you, and who else is going to be within 5 feet of you unless they're in melee range? So you're going to be damaging the person who you're grappling and then like 1 or 2 other people with 5d10 piercing damage. It's good, but the AoE is just not that big. I wouldn't strategize around it unless your opponents are already in a little area like surrounding a paladin to get their aura. Lastly is their Smash legendary action, which costs 2 legendary actions, and I think is worse than Spiky Carapet, which is really bad if you cost more than 1 legendary action. It's a 10-foot tall explosion instead of a 5-foot spike, so it doubles the distance, I guess, but you do less damage. You only do 4d8 thunder damage versus 5d10 piercing damage, and you drag someone 5 feet towards you. Only if they fail, though. And if they're within 10 feet of you, you're probably going to be moving up to them next turn anyways. Why are you dragging them closer to you unless you're going to combo with the Spiky Carapace, I guess? But, so like Smash and then Spiky Carapace when they're all within 5 feet of you. But it's not something I would really go for too often. It's not the strategy I would bank my entire fight against. Now, the Ravager is going to be the one who's most likely fighting in the Baalish Temple with their minions. So, we'll get to the minions in our next section. Now, as we know, Bhaal is a god, and as a god, he has worshippers, and so that means he'll have minions. But what kind of minions would he have? Well, it could be pretty much anybody, since anyone can follow Bhaal, and anyone really can be a Bhaal spawn. But the ones I would probably pick from the Ravager specifically are the Death Cultists. Now, there's also the Fiendish Cultists, which may be a little better damage-wise, because they can use their fire attacks without hurting the Ravager. But Death Cultists, I think they synergize a bit better with Bhaal than the other ones. They have both a ranged and melee attack they can use with their Dread Scythe or their Deathly Ray. With their Deathly Ray, they can weaken people from afar and they don't really have to worry about dying unless the party starts focusing on them. But if they're in melee, they're going to use their Dread Scythe, which can do a bit of damage, with it doing 1d10 plus 4 slashing damage plus 2d10 necrotic damage. But the thing that you want to use it for is that anyone who is hit with the Dread Scythe cannot regenerate HP. Now, the Death Cultists can attack 3 times per round. So unlike Bhaal, who's going to focus fire on one person, if you're using your Dread Scythe, you're going to want to hit as many people as possible to prevent them from regenerating HP. If you can push the party to the brink of death just by making sure that they can't regenerate HP, that'll put pressure on them to either do something about the cultists or to run. They have Spiritual Wail, which does 4d6 psychic damage to anyone other than the cultists, and it gives them the frightened condition, your opponent of course, until the end of your next turn. But they're probably not going to use this too much if they're next to Bhaal, since they don't really want to hurt Bhaal. Next, I kind of want to make sure that they have something else. Like in Tome of Foes, you can give cultists a demonic boon. While I don't think I would adjust the ability scores like they suggest to do here, I would give them the signature spells that they get and also give them their extra abilities. The 2 demons that I would choose from is Baphomet, who gets Unearring Tracker, and their Incite the Hunters, which basically lets them track your party down wherever they go. It fits the hunting nature of Bhaal. Or you could use Yenogu, which is more savage. It gives the cultists access to Gnashing Jaw, which is 1d4 plus strength, so it isn't that powerful, but it's a little extra bonus attack. It also gives them the Rampage ability, which, when this creature, aka the cultist, reduces a creature to 0 HP with a melee attack on its turn, so with its Death Scythe, it can take a bonus action and move up to half its speed and make a Gnashing Jaw attack. Lastly, I'd give them their Aura of Bloodthirst, which means if they're not incapacitated, any creature that has the Rampage trait can make a Gnashing Jaw attack as a bonus action whenever they're within 10 feet of the cultist. You're probably going to want to use the Death Cultist with ranged attacks when Bhaal is in his Ravager form, when he's doing melee attacks, and vice versa. You're going to want them to be where Bhaal is not. As for the Slayer form, I don't think that one should have minions. It's trying to be sneaky, and you don't want to have minions sneaking around with you because they could mess up your stealth. When you're trying to sneak up on someone, you don't bring an entourage. You don't bring an army. You bring one person. And that's the end of the video. Now, I do think it's a shame that the stat block of Bhaal, both of the avatar forms, is relegated to a digital-only charity book that Wizards of the Coast barely advertised. I found out about it through YouTube, through D&D YouTubers who introduced me to this very amazing book. It has plenty of things, like the stat blocks for big bads like Mephistopheles or Beelzebub or Pazuzu, or even the recipe to becoming a lich. It's a very interesting book, and I do think you should get it. Digital is how I got it, but I think you can still order customly to have like a physical copy sent to you, like a hardcover. Don't quote me on that, though. I'm not sure if they still do that. As for the stat block of Bhaal itself, it's very strong. Definitely very strong. The Ravager form is definitely stronger than the Slayer form. However, one homebrew I would probably do if I ran this is give the Ravager form the Slayer form's legendary actions. Because truthfully, I think that the Slayer's legendary actions are just better for both of them. It's not like just oh, it's better for the Slayer, but not the Ravager. No, I think they're better both ways. And you don't really have to do much tweaking because they both have claw attacks. But if you think that would make the Ravager too powerful, you don't have to do that. That's why I didn't include it in my tactics session, because it's an optional thing that I would do, but you guys don't really have to. It's very interesting to have Bhaal as a villain, because he's, evil. He loves murder. He's the god of murder and death. And players can get hyped to fight that, especially if Bhaal is using cultists or killing people himself. Killing NPCs that your players like. Now, don't go willy-nilly and just kill all the NPCs that they like, but you can kill a couple for fun, as a treat, as long as it advances the story. But anyways, if you liked the video, I hope you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you end up using Bhaal against your players, let me know. Tell me how it went. Catch you next time.